Good evening, this is Pine Leaf Needles, and welcome to LOTRO Players News, where we look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. Tonight, I am joined by Mystery
Hey there.
and Ethelros.
Hello.
Now, we have a heavy news week from LOTRO this week, so we'll get right into that. The first bit of news is, of course, 11.2.
Yay.
Now,
Whoa.
of course, this is a minor update, not a big, huge one, but there are a few points that we should mention. The first one are tons of fixes in the launcher.
Which apparently some of them didn't seem to take properly because people have been complaining about the login to last server button is disappearing.
Oh, it's supposed to.
Okay.
Yes, what happens is that if you click there's one of the buttons that if you click that, it will turn off the login to last server button.
Okay, that's kind of weird.
Yes, let me see if I could remember which one that is. That is I think if you allow multiple game instances, it turns that off. Because what would happen
Yes.
is if you turn on multiple game instances, you don't want it to automatically launch every single time on the same server.
Yes. That would be correct because that's what happened to me. I no longer have the tick box for the go to your last server. And that's because I've got that multiple instance thing ticked in my options.
Right. It's
All right.
something, though, that probably should have been announced because a lot of people are not expecting it, so therefore are saying, it's not happening.
Yeah, well, I thought they'd taken it out altogether. I didn't know it was because of my options.
Yeah, it wasn't really explained in the patch notes, but yeah.
Very well. So if you're having a problem with that, then that's the most likely reason. The second item that was in there is that there are concerning advancing quests in combat. They adjusted it again. In the last update, they made it so that you could not advance a quest while in combat. This time they changed it so that you cannot finish a quest in combat, but you could advance it otherwise.
Yeah, I can confirm that works as well because I was doing quests in Agmar earlier and you could advance it to a point, but you couldn't actually complete it.
So that one actually works as intended. The third item is for burglars who are complaining right now because Addle was changed from a 15-second cooldown to a 20-second cooldown.
Oh, if I could clarify on this point, an earlier update, I believe it was update 9 or 10, for interrupts, so that no single interrupt had a cooldown, even if it's fully lowered by all traits and legacy.
Right, that was the intention, that there will be no
Yeah,
legacy with
and
there will be no interrupt with less than 10 seconds, and I know my burglar was doing it at 5 because 15 minus 10 due to the legacy.
yeah, I'm not sure if the update never actually took or if it did and then a later update messed it up. But the intention was that with 5 seconds you could just spam it and you never had to worry about not being able to interrupt. And then obviously, as you can see now, they've changed it back, so it is 10 seconds minimum, and obviously burglars complain about that. But that is the intention, so it's not really a second nerf, it's a bug fix for the original one.
Right, and we'll have to see where burglars are placed when they come out with the class revamps, because right now burglars are complaining that they have absolutely no place in the Fellowship.
Well, there is DPS, I suppose.
Well, yes, I guess they're complaining. You know how every single class complains about their DPS.
Except the ones that have too much. They say it's perfectly balanced.
True, though I often hear though I hear the hunters and the rootkeepers complain the most about having too little DPS.
Yeah, that's why champions never say anything.
Yeah, okay. All right, the next change is that you'll no longer be allowed to put a password on GLFF.
Which, given that it's a user channel, is quite big.
Yes, it is the first time that the people at LOTRO, that Turbine has put in a rule on a user channel, and that's because there are so many servers that use GLFF as their global channel, and sometimes people wants to be the first to log in, so they put a password in it so no one else can use it, which is griefing essentially.
Yeah.
And they decided to make that impossible. Now, there is a hint from a post by Sapiens that they are planning to do something permanent concerning GLFF, that they might try to form some sort of official channel. But for now, this is their step they're doing so far.
Temporary measure, so to speak.
Yeah, it looks like a temporary measure just to keep no passwords on GLFF. Now, this may mean that on servers that do not use GLFF but a different name, that if someone starts slapping passwords on that different name, those users may decide to switch to GLFF or something like that. I don't know yet. Every server I'm on uses GLFF.
Yeah, that is the thing that's done these days.
All right, mail. Rules for mail is changing in that unread mail will now be remain in your box for 42 days instead of 14 days. And red mail will now remain for 7 days instead of 2 days.
Which has caused some complaints for people who might have accidentally sent someone an email that they didn't mean to, misspelling names and whatnot. Or if they're trying to send like an item to be bought, COD or whatever the term is.
COD.
Yeah, that. Obviously, with an extended date, that could cause some issues.
Yes, that's where the two biggest complaints are coming from. Though, of course, the people who use the mailbox as a virtual storage are happy about it.
I never actually thought of it as like that, but I guess
It is
that's
a
a
good point.
bonus. Yeah, because I wasn't actually that thrilled that they were extending the mail times, but since I'm one of the people that sends myself stuff, it's probably a good idea.
Yes, and I have this thing where since I bounce servers a bit, I only sometimes get on the Landrival once a week, and that's where I normally get the most mail in. So therefore, I've been known, I read a message, and I'm not ready to answer it now, but it's going to sit there only 2 days before it auto deletes itself. Now, what we need, of course, is a better mail system overall, but it looks like
Yeah, like
we don't have the
being
facility
able
for
to
that.
send more than one item at once.
Yeah. Now, in mounted combat, and I don't think anyone's going to complain about this one, in mounted combat, stances will finally be remembered when you remount.
Which is something that should have been there from the beginning, really.
Yes.
It's kind of weird that it didn't actually work like that. It always.
But finally, it's going to work that way, and that's one less complaint, though I'm sure people will replace it with complaints about the mailbox and not being able to put the password on GLFF.
Yep, that's something.
All right, mount buffs will no longer affect the Moors.
Which is nice. There were issues with this sort of thing because horses with the fastest speed on top of that mount speed buff would cause them to be almost uncatchable without being shot off.
Now, of course, all the creeps were saying, well, if the creeps knew how to play, then it...
Yeah, there was things about like nerfing the Reaver's charge, but that's not really the... So either way, this is basically a removal pay to win. which is always good in my book.
Right. And Wildemore had some turn-ins that were some. There was a quest in the Wildemore where if you turned it in the wrong order, it would glitch things, and they adjusted the turn-in for one of the quests so the glitch wouldn't happen.
Haven't they already tried to address this once before? This whole, because I remember that quest name coming up in an earlier patch note.
Yeah, it's possible they tried it once before. Either that or they put a temporary fix until they came up with a permanent one.
Yeah, I suppose that's a possibility.
Yeah. I've only turned in this quest once, and
Yeah, same here.
And when that was happening, I turned it in the correct order, and in that case, I was seeing 2 copies of the same character right next to each other instead.
No, it's weird because when I was questing there, it wasn't long after the actual thing came out. I turned in the questions, I saw no problems at all. So I guess I accidentally did it in the fully right order where you don't get any weird visual errors.
All right. Now, in addition to that, in Wildemore, finally those who did the quest Wildemore deeds before 11.1 are finally getting their rewards, and I can confirm that because I got my rewards when I logged into a character.
Yep. Should be getting your the Wildemore coins and associated heritage runes and the titles. I've gotten all of those.
Right. And finally, the skeletal steeds that are in loot box. Onto character.
I don't believe there are any of those steeds in loot boxes. Do you know how many I have opened?
No.
Too many! And I have yet to find a steed at all. So I think it's a figment of Turbine's imagination.
Yes, with regards to the red painted skeleton steed, some people have been asking questions about this when the patch notes first turned up. Account bound means that it doesn't get applied to all your characters. It means you can move it across to a single one if you have like a duplicate on that character or something.
Yes, the reason for this is that people are complaining about spending LOTRO points for a key and getting a skeletal steed that they can't use because they already have one on their character.
Or if they get it on a character they don't want it on.
Right.
Like a Lobie alt or something.
So it was done explicitly to address that issue.
You'd think they would have done this for all the other horses you can get like this, I suppose.
Are there any other horses you can get in a loot box?
Well, not necessarily a loot box, but any ones you can get, like, just straight up.
The mail, when you're at the festival, when you chase the envelopes for the Duskwatch steed and stuff like that.
And stuff from, like, the Halloween horse and stuff like that. Those various ones you can just get a horse from.
Yeah, I guess they decided that there isn't as much of an investment in those. While in the case of the skeletal steed from the loot box, you've paid LOTRO points, and that's what you got.
Probably. Yeah, I suppose.
Now, speaking of LOTRO points, we have some new store offers. And probably the most significant of these are the apprentice writing trait and the journeyman writing trait.
Yes, they would be wonderful if I had turbine points.
I have turbine points, but I'm not buying it.
Oh, why not?
The cost, really. It's just too much for me. Even with the apprentice one.
I think that I probably could afford the points. I haven't bought it yet, mainly because I'm spending most of my time on characters that have war steeds, and it's not much of a point to do it in a war steed.
Yeah, I think this is better for people who don't like using a war steed and prefer to just ride around on a normal horse.
Yes, that's probably the most important thing for this because what it does is the apprentice writing trait. There are two versions of that. The single character one takes all the mounts of that character and makes them 68% speed increase. So therefore, you're going as fast as the fastest horses that are currently in the game, excluding war steeds, of course.
Hmm.
So therefore, they're bringing to the up to the speed of the steeds that you buy in the store. But that's very expensive, 995 turbine points for a single character. And I can't see why anyone would want to buy this when for twice that you can get one that applies to all your characters that you have now and will ever make on any
Yeah.
server.
It is nice to see them having more account-wide options because they don't see too many of them these days, so it is nice to see that.
Right. And for 3 times the cost of the apprentice writing trait for a single character, you can get the journeyman writing trait for all your characters across all servers. And this is pretty much the same thing, except it allows you to go plus 78%.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's even
see,
faster.
that's the one I'd want because I just have this need for speed on my little horses. So,
Yeah.
but I do agree that what is it, 2,995 turbine points is an awful lot to pay for it.
It's worth bearing in mind that these increases, like I think they're passive skills or something they're listed as, they do not take effect in the Ettenmoors either. So you'll be going as the speed of whatever that horse is meant
Right.
to be at.
And in fact, these are some of the things that probably prompted the reason why they finally got around to taking care of the 20% speed buff.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They were already
Yes.
doing it, so might as well get that sorted out.
Right. Now, for the price that you get it for example, the apprentice writing trait is the same price as a single steed if you bought a store-bought mount. So if you wanted to buy a store-bought mount just for that 68% bonus, then you might as well buy the apprentice writing trait instead. Now, if you're buying it for the skin, obviously that's a completely different matter. But if
Then
you're
again,
just
you could be buying these apprentice thing for a skin because there might be a horse you really like the look of, but because it's a little slower, just a little slower than the maximum, it might put you off from using it.
right, for example, I had never used my 68% steeds that I have for most of my characters on my main. The thing that kept me from using it was that it had the stupid flag on it.
Yeah.
And I just thought it looked silly.
Yeah, there is a downside, of course, that with some of those less than 68%, they tend to have lower health, and the health is not changed by this.
Yes.
But sorry, just going back to the flag, where's your sense of safety? When you're riding through the desert, it's the way people spot you in amongst all the sand dunes.
Are we in a desert?
We could be one day. You never know. Turbine are
about-
thinking ahead. They're considering our safety with the flags.
Yeah, when we go to Harad in about 10 expansions, then it will be important.
Like I said, planning ahead.
Well, I guess while Mordor is not technically a sand desert, it is based on it. I think of it as a volcanic desert almost.
Well, there's no water there. It's pretty much the same.
Right. Very well. Now, another thing that they added is the returning traveler, which is a new skill that allows you to change a trait, I guess, to change your cooldowns on your return to skills by 30 minutes. Those are your rep ports.
Oh, because I thought they already had something like this, didn't they? Is that?
Yeah, they have hurried travel, which does it for your milestones.
Ah, okay.
So if you're someone who depends on rep ports quite a great deal, then you may be considering this one.
Okay.
And they also added another set of shared storage.
Oh, that was. The bot people would be more excited about that.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people will buy that one. I haven't yet, but there are some of my characters who probably will be buying it I mean, I'll probably buy it as soon as I need that next wardrobe space, since I think I am maxed out on a couple of servers.
Yeah, I tend to have that problem.
Yeah. Now, the second bit of news, Summer Festival.
Whoa.
Mystery.
Yes, the summer festival. Time to bring out your fishing poles, dust them off and get them wet and hope your fishing line hasn't deteriorated. That's the
Well,
highlight.
that's the high. Well, based on what you've been telling me, you've been having trouble getting those fish to bite for you.
Yes. Yes, because they do have a quest that is where you can catch the different sorts of fish, and they have special fish which will give you 2 tokens for 1 fish, which is an awesome way to get tokens. The problem is catching the fish. So I think it's a starry flounder can be found at Bree. A silver haddock is at Thorin's Hall, and if memory serves, it's some fish starting with C at Callendar. But you can also catch them at Bywater in the 10-minute fishing challenge there, if you're lucky. So I'm just not lucky.
Nah, you mean you haven't caught one yet?
My first day on Arkenstone on Mystery, I caught a silver haddock at Bywater, and that was pretty much it. And how long ago was that now? 4 days? 3 days? However long. I am the queen of weeds, however. I have actually caught over 100 weeds, so that's just awesome.
Lady of the Weeds.
And yes, there should be a title, Lady of the Weeds, because I would have it. And I also think that if you get 50 weeds, that deserves a festival token, at least. And if you catch 25 of those stupid little goldfish, that deserves a token. I would like to see more than just 1 copper per weed, because that ain't a lot. So, but you do your fishing quests in the summer festival, and like I said, that is the major thing for this festival. But they do also have the Hobbit and Dwarf races, which, if you're lucky enough to pick the winner of the race, you will get 6 tokens. So that actually is quite worth it as well. And you get to those races by going to the stable master at Mickle Delving and clicking on a horse, and that will take you to the Hobbit race instance. And down at Thorin's Gate, if you click on the horse at the stable master there, that will take you to the dwarf races. And just as a side note, because I've been to both often and lost, I have noticed that the dwarf races seem to have more people more often than the Hobbit races, which I thought was a bit weird, because personally I don't see why anyone would want to be underground that long, but there are people that do it.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes. And what's the cosmetics? Sorry, I'm just going off memory here. There are new cosmetics. I think there is 2 robes, 1 hooded and 1 plain, and a robe this year as the new cosmetics, and they are the Midsummer range. So that's the new look for this year. It'll be the Robe of the Midsummer, Cloak of the Midsummer, and Hooded Cloak of the Midsummer. And as usual, they're all your 20 tokens each. So if you're after a horse, this year's new horse is the Steed of the Midsummer, I think they called it. And it will cost you 40 tokens. And there is also the comparison of the Midsummer for all those of you who have your war steeds, and that's also 40 tokens. But my favourite thing from this festival are the wicker chairs. I think they look really good. I can't remember if they're 10 or 15 tokens, but you get a white wicker chair, and there's also a mossy wicker chair, and they're my favourite things from this festival.
All right.
And everything the same from every other year. So there you go.
All right. Thank you for the rundown. So now we'll go to the forum updates, which is going to happen next week, barring a major disaster. And why do you have
sorry, major disaster and turbine. Yeah, never going to happen.
Right, that's why I made sure I said that there's always a possibility of something go wrong, but assuming that doesn't go wrong, then what's happening is that on Monday morning at 10 a.m., server time, of course, they will take down well, actually not take down the forums, they will put all the forums that are currently in existence into read-only mode. That means you won't be able to post in any of the current existing forums. They've created 3 new forums called temporary forums where you will be able to post, and they have one for English, one for German, and one for French. And the idea is you could post there for any discussion you want until the new forums are ready, but anything posted there is going to go away as soon as the new forms are up because they are not being transferred. They're only transferring the stuff that's posted before the read-only lock at 10 a.m.
Which doesn't really matter because I imagine all that's going to be posted is asking, is it done yet?
That is probably what is going to be, well, that, and I wouldn't be surprised if the people at Langeville try to have their coffee thread anyway.
Yes, yeah, I could see that.
They may have that one because, okay, if that disappears, because they create a new coffee thread every day anyway.
Coffee's addictive.
Yes. Now, this is going to take estimated 4 days.
So bet on it being about a week.
Yes. So they'll expect it to take just about the entire week. They're hoping to have it up sometime Thursday, maybe Friday. But of course, that is an estimate, and you know how estimates go. Sometimes they finish early, and sometimes they're way over.
I hadn't noticed.
Right. So we can only hope this is not one of those where they're way over.
So
now,
true.
Yes. Now, you will be able to also, of course, get news through Twitter and Facebook. The reason why they created these temporary forums is because we already know that there are people who will refuse to use Facebook or Twitter, and in fact, I never check Facebook and Twitter for LOTRO unless I go out of my way to remember to check it. And that's very much the exception and not the rule of me going to one of those. So I might be looking at the temporary forums, and we're, of course, assuming that the temporary forms work properly when they try this.
The possibility that it won't work and they'll be forced to use Twitter and Facebook anyway.
Right. But they
and
are
even if the forums do work, Twitter and Facebook are still going to be the quickest way of sending a message or giving progress.
Most likely those will be the ones. Yeah, that'll probably be the quickest way of getting it. The other place where they will post, of course, will be on the on the startup page when you log in, but let's face it, that's not something that's going to be the quickest way to get your news.
Or the most reliable.
Right. So therefore, I would suggest that if you can tolerate Twitter or Facebook, then try following those in order to get the news of what's coming up.
Yep.
Now, what are they doing with this? The idea is they want to take the forums and essentially fix it is probably the easiest way of putting it, because you have all these complaints about the forums being broken. The forums are very mobile device unfriendly, and since I do half of my forum reading on a mobile device, I know how unfriendly it can be. And they're improving the pages for the lotteries and for copying over to Bull Roar. And that's right, there will still be lotteries, and that the lotteries will have their own page instead of being a widget on the home page, which is what it was before. Now, there are a lot of things that are being lost, mainly because these things, all the things that they threw on top of this, were just making the form so buggy that it wasn't working right.
Basically what they're doing is stripping it to its bare bones and then making those bare bones actually work.
That is essentially it. But that means no more lore book, but then lately, when I wanted to get information, I didn't go to the lore book because it was slow and buggy. Instead, I went to LOTRO Wiki, which is probably what most people do. Blogs are going away. And I'd probably be a bit late now to warn you, but that means if you want to save your blog, you should have saved it by now. I know Sapiens did a post on that.
Yeah, if you're blocking on the forums, then you probably would have seen the post.
You got a point there, yes. The leaderboards are going away, which probably because I don't know how accurate the PvP leaderboards were, but the skirmish leaderboards, after you unlocked your 10th skirmish, where your different skirmish, all the skirmishes you did after that would not be put on your leaderboard. So therefore, if your 10th skirmish was breaching the Necromancer's Gate, then you did Assault on the Ringwraith's Lair after that, Assault on the Ringwraith's Lair will never get posted. Now, you could do Breaching the Necromancer's Gate 10,000 times and they'll always be posted.
But yeah, the PvMP ones, they have a problem where they sometimes aren't updated at all, and then sometimes they are, and then it's just a period where they aren't.
Oh,
yeah, I think any kind of page where it draws upon character data or any kind of data from the game is being removed.
Right. That's probably the easiest way of putting it, is that if it relies on character data or what you did in the game, don't count on it being there. If it's relying on anything that's from within the game, it's going away there. That means your plate signatures going away.
Which isn't a big deal.
Right. Well, some people are complaining about it, but
I mean, they look nice, but they're not.
they just take up resources.
Yeah.
And anyway, let's face it, most of the people that post there anyway probably are already at level cap, so...
Yeah, those things have been broken for a while also. The whole crafting thing, most of them still show tier 6 when we're on, what, 8?
Yes. On top of that, there are two other pieces of news. One of them is that next week they expect to put up the next 20 questions, and that it's going to discuss Helm's Deep. Questions about them, group content, and Helm's Deep. So I think a lot of people are anxious to get the answers to that.
Especially considering so far they haven't mentioned if they're actually going to be raids with Helm's Deep or not. So people are going to be very curious to see those.
Yes, we very definitely want to see that information. And that's expected to go up around the time that the forums return. Obviously, they can't go up on the forums before the forums return. So it might go up maybe just a couple hours after the forum goes up, unless the forums come up very fast or the 20 questions get very long to get finalized.
Yep.
So we could expect that maybe Thursday or Friday, assuming weird things don't happen, which, of course, as you always know, weird things often happen.
If you're going to hedge a safe bet, then go for the Monday after.
Yes. The other thing is they gave us an update on the status of character transfers. The short answer is they are not ready to resume character transfers yet, and that when they do, it will still be a paid service. They're not making it a free service like they're doing with the renames of kinships or the undeletes. They're trying to get to be automatic at some point so that it'll be faster, but they think they'll be resuming before then. But the most important piece of news, in other words, the thing that most people are going to hate, is that they do not have a solution, and they don't think they'll ever have a solution on doing transfers between the North American servers and the European servers. Turbine currently does not think it's ever going to happen, so don't count on it ever happening.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people will be disappointed in that, but it's just not working right. The two just won't talk to each other.
Well, they should build a bridge and get over it.
Well, I think they tried that once before, back last year when they were doing the beta in there, and their bridge apparently collapsed.
Obviously, they need a better civil engineer to design it.
It was probably built by the people still working on the worksite in Brie.
Yes. Let's go to LOTRO sales. Our free sample this week are Morale and Power Scrolls. Virtues are 25% off. Virtue bundles are 25% off. Traits slots are 25% off, so you could put in all those virtues that you just bought. And Skill and Slayer deed booths are 25% off, just in case you wanted to get those virtues the hard way. And remember that the steed of the Iron Hills will gallop away on the 31st.
Temporarily.
Yes, temporarily, and to be replaced by some other mount that is currently unnamed.
Yeah, I think the so far is they release a new horse every month, I think.
Right.
It's the Steed of Mystery.
Ooh, you'll want that one.
Yes, I do. But since it's unnamed, it's all mysterious. So the Steed of Mystery would be a great name.
Ah. Now let's go to LOTRO players. Brax Wolf posted a article. So you want to be a hunter, a beginner's guide, playstyle guide for the hunter.
Yeah, that was a good guide that he put up, and I was so glad he did. So, yeah, it's a good read.
It told you everything you wanted to know about hunters?
Well, me, yeah, but then my hunters are still relatively low levels, so very helpful for me.
All I need to know about hunters is they taste good with chicken.
Oh,
They're
right.
the taxi service of Middle Earth.
I don't know about because if I remember correctly, my one encounter with a hunter today, I was being ripped to pieces.
Yeah. They're a hard to get meal, but when you get one.
You are so happy.
Yeah. Hard fought meal, but a very good one.
All right. Very well. So that tells you all the stuff you need to know about it, about the various skills that you have and what to do and what not to do as a hunter. Now, another item is a series by Pine Leaf concerning Let's Look at Lieutenants.
Who's Pine Leaf? Is he new?
I
I think
know.
he likes skirmishes or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
apparently so. We're doing this thing on lieutenants. So this week's article was on the Blood Rook.
That, I heard, is Pine Leaf's favourite lieutenant.
Well, compared to some of the other lieutenants.
Gotta love the Priestess of Flame, don't you?
Oh, the Priestess of Flame. Wait till we
She's
come to that
hot.
one. Yeah, a little bit too
Whenever I
much.
see her, she always makes my Lawmaster feel inadequate because his fire is just tiny in comparison.
I thought that.
Maybe you should just go buy some coal and stoke that fire a bit.
Yeah. I would have
Yeah.
thought though that what is the gourd when
Yeah,
it's
improved
traded
sticky good.
doesn't sticky gourd turn into a hot spot or something like that if you're a
It
certain
does, but it's still way
trait?
smaller than the Priestess of Flames one.
Oh, okay. That tells you how often I trait red if I don't know this.
Yeah.
I
You
know,
haven't
I like
experienced the
my bog
joy.
lurker. All right, well, a few more episodes of Beneath Your Feet. We went to the.
That's true.
Yes,
And they're worth listening to as well.
right. And then we've got my update for my YouTube channel. My latest one there for Skirmisher Middle Earth was a nod of the hat to Weatherstock, where I called the episode "Let's Go to Amen Sul," and I tried to tie in Weatherstock with my most recent skirmish that I'm doing, which happened to be Stand at Amen Sul. And that was, I very rarely link what I do on YouTube to LOTRO players, but I decided to do it this week.
Kind of fitting.
Yes, and does anyone else have anything they wish to plug that happened at LOTRO players this week?
I haven't finished my Bog Lurker article yet, but that will be the next one up for the Lotro pets. And then after that, it's just the Spirit Healing pet for the Lawmaster, and then it's done for that class.
Ah, yes.
Yes. And unfortunately, I have been so busy I haven't got a festival guide up yet, but a casual stroll to Mordor do have theirs up. And check out the trivial bits and bobs and find out if you can find Bob in the puzzle and answer our trivia question about where Ham and Sam Ganji lived.
Ah, yes. I didn't think that one was too difficult.
No, gypsies, you know. Can't go past a gypsy.
All right, where is... So you're saying that Bob is somewhere in that picture?
Yes, he is. He got lost on his way home. And he is definitely in that picture.
All right,
And the answer will be posted next week. So,
is this Bob in some way related to Lalia?
this is Bob that worked for Barleyman. You know, Bob and Nob.
Yeah.
And after Bob got attacked, he wanted to be home before dark. So, yeah, but unfortunately, Bob's not too bright and he gets lost on his way home.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether or not this... I was trying to remember whether Nob or Bob was Lalia's father.
I think it's Bob.
Okay, yeah, all right. So it runs in the family then.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's see what we've got here. Donations for this week. We have a $5 donation from Carolyn, who writes, Carolyn of Windy Acres Ranch would like to invite you to participate in exciting equestrian events on the Landreville server. Windy Acres will host one event each month featuring horse races, rodeos, mounted fashion contests, and solve the mystery role-play parties. Players of all levels and visitors from all other servers are welcome. Race to win fun prizes or just come and enjoy the music and roleplay. The Windy Acres website is located at windyacres.mymiddleearth.com. Find our calendar of events a horse name generator, a guide to racing, and much more. We hope to see you at the races, and it's signed Carolyn.
And Windy Acres do put on some really good events and stuff, so it is worth actually going and checking that out.
Now, they are concerned on the impact of the new buffs on races.
Yeah, that's going to require more regulation.
Yes, because I believe that the Smell the Roses buff, I did not mention Smell the Roses when I was talking about the Journeyman trait, but you have this skill called Smell the Roses, where if you turn it on, it will slow you down to your steed's natural speed. So therefore, you turn that on, you go at your normal rate, then you turn it off, then you go at that enhanced speed.
It's a pretty nifty feature.
Right. But what they're afraid of is that someone will put up Smell the Roses, pretend that their horse can only go at a certain speed, and then at the last moment near the end of the race, go slightly faster by turning off Smell the Roses. But I believe while the horse bonuses do not show in your buffs, I believe that Smell the Roses does, or at least that's what it looked like when I tested
I
at
believe
Landry.
it's a toggled skill, so it should show up.
Yeah, so it showed up when I tested on Bull Roar. But the problem is they have to look on the bar to see that Smell the Roses is up, because the idea is that if someone runs without Smell the Roses for an entire race, it's obvious that they're using a faster mount.
Yeah, I think this could be very difficult to figure out, but in the end, you just have to trust people not to be unsporting.
Right. But for the moment, that means next month they're only going to run for fun races and not for any prizes until they have it all sorted out. Now, there are some classes, maybe they could eventually come up with classes so that you have a 78 class, a 68 class, a 62 class, and maybe even a 32 class, and a War Seed class, of course. And actually, with War Seed, you need 3 classes for that also, light, medium, and heavy. And when they have that, then those who spend the money for the 78s could race against those. But as I noted before, you have to be able to make sure that no one's cheating, and they want to sort that out first before they have prizes. But the next event, I believe, is in mid-August. I think August 17th. The Bywater Steeplechase in Bywater in the Shire. This will be a fun race for standard plus 62% steeds.
Cool.
And in September 21st, they will have their cross-country War Steed race.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to actually participate in that one. Not at level 38.
Well, let me see. Well, for me, my biggest one is that Langeville is the server where I have the heavy War Steed. And I always find it a pain to swap between War Steeds because your skills change and therefore it changes the order of all your skills. So I don't like changing over from one to the other, so you should just stick to one type of War Steed on a server. But that is it for donations for this week. But if you want to also be mentioned in there, then I will suggest, then press the donate button, which is in the upper right of the page on the LOTRO Players. For $5, you will get a mention on the LOTRO Player podcast of your choice, while for $10, you get a mention on all 5 current podcasts. The podcasts we have for LOTRO Player News, Fellowship of the Creeps, Through the Palantir, An Unexpected Vidcast, and LOTRO Academy.
And that is some list.
Yes. Now, you wish to plug the Fellowship Walk, Mist?
Yes, and actually I also just would like to remind people, this is going back to Weatherstock, if you registered your name for a title there, don't forget to log back onto Landravol to pick up the code for your Weatherstock Wayfarer code. So yeah, just keep an eye on that, because I do know that LMB are going to be starting very shortly sending those if they haven't already started. Fellowship Walk. Come one, come all. Donate, please. So we're still looking for donations. So if you've got some time, can give a lesson in how to make an ABC file, I'll put my hand up to actually bid on that one. Or anything. Thanks, Pineley, for the skirmishes that you've donated. So yeah, send us an email at fellowshipwalk.gmail.com and let us know what you can donate. So we are still going ahead. We did a planning day yesterday. We've got lots of fun things organised. So just need some donations, please.
Very well. And I've heard rumors that you have a Steam group also?
Oh, LOTRO Players has a Steam group. Yes, and we've actually had a few more members join over the past week. So welcome to all our new members, and keep an eye out because we do post announcements there as well, sort of like highlights of the main site. So keep an eye on that. Check out my guides. Please rate my guides, and more guides will be going up there shortly as well.
Very well. Anybody have any closing thoughts before we sign off for tonight?
Go fishing. If you want a break from housework, make a coffee, sit at the computer, and fish for 20 minutes.
And don't use the warrior skirmish soldier. He's just bad in general. As we experienced today.
Only use him if you have the picnic basket skill.
Yeah.
Wait, if I remember correctly, that soldier was not trained, though.
Well, it doesn't matter. You can't train that kind of stupidity out of him.
You got a point there. Good night. This is Pine Leaf Needles, and skirmish responsibly.
Have fun.